This summarizes uh, in one slide some of the major themes that contrast free will with imprisoned will, and we'll expand on that as we go on into today's session. So we are reading, the title of this section is The Difference Between Imprisonment and Freedom. Hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica and our reader is David S.
There is a rationale for choice. Only one teacher knows what your reality is. If learning to remove the obstacles to that knowledge is the purpose of the curriculum, you must learn it of him. The ego does not know what it is trying to teach. It is trying to teach you what you are without knowing what you are. It is expert only in confusion. It does not understand anything else. As a teacher, then, the ego is totally confused and totally confusing. Even if you could disregard the Holy Spirit entirely, which is impossible, you could still learn nothing from the ego because the ego knows nothing.
So a concept that is original and unique here is that only one teacher, the Holy Spirit, knows what your eternal divine reality is, and therefore we must learn of the truth of our being from the Holy Spirit. And with respect to the idea of free will, in Philosophy 101, I read John Stuart Mill, who's very articulate, a writer, read about free will, and he had many interesting things to say about that. But if we now, I don't want to judge what he knew because he heard from the Holy Spirit as well. But if we just assume for a minute that he was relying on his own wits, that he was trying to teach about free will without knowing what you are. And so anyone that tries to teach about free will without having learned it of the Holy Spirit is really teaching in a set of confusion and does not understanding anything. This is the nature of the ego. Now, again, I want to backtrack a little bit. It's very possible that John Stuart Mill had insights from the Holy Spirit and was using some of that in his teaching. I really don't have an opinion on that, but that what I do have a strong assertion is that the truth about our free will originates from the Holy Spirit and then passes on to our understanding. Heather?
I just love that line because it reminds me in the course where it says the tiny mad idea. I mean, isn't this the tiny mad idea? Like our ego could teach us what we are, and when he doesn't even know what we are, that's just hysterical.
Actually, Heather, that is a brilliant linkage because when we say a tiny mad idea, a lot of people say, well what? But if you associate a tiny mad idea with an effort to teach people about what they are without really understanding what they are, that's a tiny mad idea. That's madness. I really like that. I want to remember, thank you. I want to remember that interpretation of what a tiny mad idea is because I think it fills out and gives color to something that needed a little better articulation. Thank you. We'll go on.
Is there any possible reason for choosing a teacher such as this? Does the total disregard of anything it teaches make anything but sense? Is this the teacher to whom a son of God should turn to find himself? The ego has never given you a sensible answer to anything. Simply on the grounds of your own experience with its teaching, should not this alone disqualify it as your future teacher? Yet the ego has done more harm to your learning than this alone. Learning is joyful if it leads you along your natural path and facilitates the development of what you have. When you are taught against your nature, however, you will lose by your learning because your learning will imprison you. Your will is in your nature.
Is there something else I can help with?
And therefore cannot go against it.
I'm sorry.
So, is there something else I can help you with? Expounding upon this idea of a tiny mad idea is to consult a teacher that is completely confused and to choose that as your source of guidance would obviously create profound disorientation, particularly when it comes to falsely teaching you about your own nature. In this case, the ego would teach that your nature is flesh and blood. From dust, you have originated, from dust you will return. It would be one rendering of the ego's teaching. When you do that, you will lose by your learning, because that kind of learning will imprison you. And so I think we already know these things, those of you who have been reading the course for a while. And then we start to build upon the larger theme in this section. Is, remember that the ego teaches against your nature. The Holy Spirit teaches your will is your nature, and therefore your will cannot go against your nature. And that becomes a major theme for the remainder of the session. Heather?
When you're taught against your nature, reminds me of the traditions I was taught in, that we were born in sin. That's completely against our true nature. That we're sinners and we're fallen from God.
It is indeed. And the moment you mentioned that, I want to just introduce as an example of being taught that the practice in Christianity of christening an infant child. And the idea behind this, and this is done with a child that may be a month old or, very, very young. The idea is the christening, the belief is that it's necessary to christen the child so that it'll go to heaven. Should it die, it would go elsewhere, is the belief, if it were not christened. And the basis for that is what Heather said, the belief that we're born in sin. So it's a belief that the infant was born in sin, and if it should die young, many children did die very young, and that it would be lost. And that is all of that is premised upon the belief that this is the way God set it up, that little infants should go to hell because they were born in sin. This is the ego's teaching that goes against your true nature. Susie?
I mean, I'll go as far for myself I say to say that everything up until the course, I think, I was taught against my true nature. And all these ideas and self-concepts and beliefs is completely opposite of what the course has teaching me, which is why it takes so long in time to heal.
Yeah.
Because I've got so much healing to do, which is fine, because nothing I was taught, mostly everything I was taught, has imprisoned me. So,
Yes.
and it's not bad news. It's just the truth. It's actually good news because I don't have to stay there. There's a
Yeah.
way out.
Thank you for emphasizing that. Freedom begins with the recognition that this is not the way it has to be, and this is not natural. And Susie Point makes another important point, that the ego's thought system itself is all part of an entire system of beliefs, all of which point in the same direction away from your nature. And so that everything that the ego teaches is contrary to joy and love and peace. Here's a statement: ego cannot possibly teach you something that would carry you to joy and love and peace. Although it may pretend that it can teach you about love, it's really a bastardized version of its teaching about love.
The ego cannot teach you anything as long as your will is free, because you will not listen to it. It is not your will to be imprisoned, because your will is free. That is why the ego is the denial of free will. It is never God who coerces you, because he shares his will with you. His voice teaches only in accordance with his will. But that is not the Holy Spirit's lesson, because that is what you are. The lesson is that your will and God's cannot be out of accord, because they are one. This is the undoing of everything the ego tries to teach. It is not then only the direction of the curriculum that must be unconflicted, but also the content.
Mm-hmm. So these latter points here are really expansive ideas that we want to bring attention to and understand. What is the Holy Spirit's lesson? And this is profound, that your will and God's are forever in accord because they are one. I'll state it another way. There is only one will in the entire universe, and that is the will of the Creator and the will of his creation. They are one. That is will. Everything that differs from that or is apart from that is not will, it's wishing, fantasizing, hypnotic beliefs, delusional beliefs. There is only one will, and therefore it is inevitable that your will and God's will forever are in accord. Although the ego would try to teach you otherwise. Therefore, this curriculum, only the direction of it's not only then that facing the direction of the light and healing and forgiveness is necessary. But not only that, it's also necessary that the content, the ideas, the beliefs, the sense of purpose of the curriculum are also united with that direction. And this is where the Holy Spirit comes in, because not many people have on their own and independent of Course in Miracles turned towards God in a moment of help, need, and said, God, help me. And they were sincere, but they didn't have the content. Their mind was still full of ego teachings that would be inconsistent with the direction they were facing. So I point out to you that the famous saying that in a foxhole, there are no atheists, meaning when you're hiding in a foxhole and there are bombs exploding all around you, everyone is praying that they might live. That's not to say, however, so they're facing in the right direction. That's not to say, however, that their beliefs about the laws of God and the laws of healing are consistent or accurate. But so both are needed. The point here being, both are needed to both face towards the light and towards the Creator, and also to acquire the learning so that the content is consistent with the Creator.
The ego tries to teach that you want to oppose God's will. This unnatural lesson cannot be learned, and the attempt to learn it is a violation of your own freedom, making you afraid of your will because it is free. The Holy Spirit opposes any imprisoning of the will of a Son of God, knowing that the will of the Son is the Father's. The Holy Spirit leads you steadily along the path of freedom, teaching you how to disregard or look beyond everything that would hold you back.
So we mentioned a moment ago that the healing begins with the recognition of the problem, a recognition of what's really going on. So let's talk about this idea, this lie that you want to oppose God's will. And I'm going to cite an example, but you should be able to find some in your own life. I remember as a young teenager, obviously growing up, being faced with choices that were not available to me years before that. I remember at times being faced with situations where I knew what the better way was, but I chose to take the lesser road anyway, like drinking too much alcohol, for instance. I knew that that wasn't the higher way, but I believed that I wanted to do it my own way, which is really opposing God's will. This unnatural lesson, it's an unnatural lesson to want to take the lower road, to want to be self-destructive, to want to violate your own moral code. All those things are unnatural. They violate your own sense of freedom, and it makes you afraid of the higher road, your will to pursue the higher will. So, talk about a tiny mad idea. All that is symptomatic of madness, which the Holy Spirit opposes and leads you in a different direction, teaching you, and this is most key here, how to disregard or look beyond everything that would hold you back. So, in practicing the Course in Miracles in your own life today, what we're saying is in situations will arise in your life. I think they will arise in your life this week, if not today, where an idea will occur to you, and it will not be such, it will certainly not be your higher nature speaking. It's an idea. It's full of fear or revenge or judgment. And the Holy Spirit will teach you how to disregard or look beyond that impulse, that instinctual first reaction, will teach you how to pause and turn towards Holy Spirit so that you can exchange your ego impulse with your higher choices. And this process is the way to undo the mad idea of the ego and to learn to forgive. That right here is to, it has to be, you have to learn to disregard that instinctual, judgmental, guilt and fear-ridden impulse that arises in your mind and arises in my mind.
We have said that the Holy Spirit teaches you the difference between pain and joy. That is the same as saying he teaches you the difference between imprisonment and freedom. You cannot make this distinction without him, because you have taught yourself that imprisonment is freedom. Believing them to be the same, how can you tell them apart? Can you ask the part of your mind that taught you to believe they are the same to teach you how they are different?
So now that we've talked about some of the attributes of free will and imprisoned will, we need to understand how they operate within our own experience, within our own consciousness. And the problem is that we have become so disoriented by the madness of the ego that we can't really tell the difference on our own and by ourselves between the higher road and the lower road, between our joy and our peace, between our freedom and our imprisonment. You cannot make this distinction without the Holy Spirit, because we've accepted in the past the teachings of the ego that we're better off to defy the will of God, to oppose it. And therefore, being completely confused about those matters, we can't tell them apart, and nor can we ask the part of our mind that is confused to teach us how they differ. We must turn towards our higher power to learn anew. Again, this whole course is really just about learning a new plan and being entirely willing to discard the old set of ideas and teachings. Heather?
I love this paragraph. It teaches you the difference between imprisonment and freedom. You know, you always say pay attention to how you feel. So I just realized the clues, those two, it's just between two things, pain and joy. It's imprisonment or freedom. If I'm imprisoned, I'm in pain. If I'm in joy, I'm free. And it was just makes that very simple for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, I've been paying attention to that, and I'll offer my experience here. When a ego thought I start to entertain it, it feels like a constriction of my core like I can't get a breath, complete breath. It feels like a tightening. It's fear, the arrival of fear, versus freedom feels expansive. It feels like I oxygenated, feels like a release from wearing this heavy armature of the ego. And I submit that you can detect these things, you can train your mind to attend to those feelings, and because they are very fast indicators. The fight or flight syndrome or response mechanism is well known, and you can use that as an indicator that this must be fear and there must be another choice available to me. Susie?
So I can't wait till we get, I have so much underlined here. I can't wait till we get to the solution or whatever, how, we always get there, because I 100% know when I'm in my ego and fear, most of the times. I won't say 100%, most of the time. And the Holy Spirit, my work with her and my prayer and my lessons and whatever has really helped heal so much. But there are a couple of things, and I know infinite patience produces immediate results and all of that and all of that and all of that. And I'm just wondering, I guess I'm still choosing for Susie, even though I think I'm sincerely asking for release. So, I'm not asking a question. I'm just making a comment. I know it would take a whole, 4 hours for you to answer that and all of that. But I'm just throwing it out there into the universe and into the class. And, yeah, I guess it's actually has to be my responsibility. So it's
Yeah.
maybe my lack of willingness. I don't know where I think I don't have the lack.
Yeah. So I have 4 sentences, not 4 hours, Susie. And think of it as a shift from the horizontal to the vertical. Horizontal being a prisoner in time, and it's going to take me years to become free. The vertical is a shift into the present awareness. It's a transcendent state of mind. It's a holy instant of release from past belief systems. And in that moment, you are free, even if it might not last an hour. It might only last, it's a holy instant. It's a glimpse of what it's like to be free all the time. And that state is where your natural being, you become aware once again that all this charade, all the world's a stage and we but are its players, all this staged ego world is superficial and unreal. And the truth lies higher in your state that is beyond the limitations of time. So that's where your freedom can happen today.
Yes. Yeah, I have felt it, and there's nothing more wonderful than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. David?
Good morning, everyone. In practicing my daily lessons and observing my thoughts, I've seen that I often have fear when I think about a certain situation or task. Might be a fear that I can't do it, or it's, whatever. And what I've realized is that it's what you were talking about, releasing me from the past belief system. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I just can't keep my kitchen clean, or I can't, or I'm a victim, but it's releasing myself from that belief system. So what's been really helpful for me, in fact, miraculous is exchanging. Every time that idea comes up that I can't do something or I'm afraid, I exchange that ego unbelief in myself for the Holy Spirit, absolute and eternal belief in me as an innocent child of God. And man, am I getting stuff done. It's just, I'm doing it with a partner. Every time I can't do something, they're showing me I can, and they're holding my hand and taking me through it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, David. It's a great illustration how we can apply this.
Can I just say one thing to that? It's always, who is the I? Who is the I that can't do it? You know it's my small self.
Yes.
But I've made my, I've taught, again, I was taught the I is, my real self.
Right. Yeah, that was actually referenced subtly earlier in today, where it said, can you turn to your part of your mind that's taught you against your nature and seek for it as a guidance? We tend to think of that as our I. And we're learning that is a false teaching of the nature of who we are. David?
The Holy Spirit's teaching takes only one direction and has only one goal. His direction is freedom, and his goal is God. Yet he cannot conceive of God without you, because it is not God's will to be without you. When you have learned that your will is God's, you could no more will to be without him than he could will to be without you. This is freedom, and this is joy. Deny yourself this, and you are denying God his kingdom, because he created you for this.
So there's two modes referred to here. One is a mode of realization, a recognition that your will and God's will are united because there's only one will in all creation. And that brings, we referenced it a moment ago in the holy instant, it's a feeling of freedom and joy. It's expansive. The opposite of that recognition is the denial of your true nature, the denial that your will is one with God's. This is obviously a form of separation. I've got my own independent will. And that results in a complete shutdown of the mind towards what the Holy Spirit is teaching. Let's see. David, I think this is yours.
When I said, all power and glory are yours because the kingdom is his, this is what I meant. The will of God is without limit, and all power and glory lie within it. It is boundless in strength and in love and in peace. It has no boundaries because its extension is unlimited, and it encompasses all things because it created all things. By creating all things, it made them part of itself. You are the will of God because that is how you were created. Because your Creator creates only like himself, you are like him. You are part of him who is all power and glory, and are therefore as unlimited as he is. Well, this paragraph takes in a lot of stuff, and I'm going to reflect back on some of the things that we've read in the past few sessions to kind of get to this point. Some things that help me is that knowledge is not the motivation for learning this course. Peace is the motivation for learning this course, and you referenced that before. So removing the obstacles to knowledge can be learned from only one teacher. That's the Holy Spirit, as it's interpreted here. The ego is expert only in confusion. The ego knows nothing. All right. So your will, our will it's in our nature, and therefore we can't go against it. And our will and God's will cannot be out of accord because they are one. So we can't really go against God's will. The Holy Spirit teaches us the difference. We read before, the difference between pain and joy, which is the same as imprisonment and freedom. Now, the Holy Spirit teaches only one direction and has only one goal. And that direction is freedom. And the goal is God. All power and glory are yours, it says, because the kingdom is his. Now, what's the kingdom is his? What is that? The kingdom is his. Well, the kingdom is the result of premises, just as the world is, as we see it, is a result of premises. So which premises do you want to go with? All right. What exactly does it mean that the kingdom is his and you are part of this kingdom? Well, he tells us that what is meant is that the will of God is without limit, and all power and glory are within it. It has no boundaries. All creation is within it. And since we are created as extensions of God, then we are part of him and we are like him. Just like everything we create is part of us and like us. So we, therefore, by following this logically, we possess unlimited power and glory as long as we keep our will attuned to his will. And there really is only his will, because it tells us in this paragraph that all things are created through his will as an extension of himself. So I like to think of it, because I'm kind of a concrete, kind of a nut, and try to figure out how can I think of this. Well, I like to think of it as like, we see different things when we look at things, but all things have subatomic matter in them that's spinning around, and things fit with more space than matter within matter. And we see this. And so, I think of that sort of like as the power of God is in our core. In the same way, it's spinning around, it's there, it's in our altar, that holy altar that is within. It's where God is. And this is the source of our strength. And this frees us from the imprisonment that the ego offers. And therefore, we can find freedom. And that's my take on the paragraph.
Thank you, brother.
To what else except all power and glory can the Holy Spirit appeal to restore God's kingdom? His appeal then is merely to what the kingdom is and for its own acknowledgement of what it is. When you acknowledge this, you bring the acknowledgement automatically to everyone, because you have acknowledged everyone. By your recognition, you awaken theirs, and through theirs, yours is extended. Awakening runs easily and gladly through the kingdom in answer to the call for God. This is the natural response of every son of God to the voice for his creator, because it is the voice for his creations and for his own extension.
Mm-hmm. So Susie said earlier she can't wait to get to the part that really shines the light, and certainly this paragraph does. And it introduces two ideas. One is a type of acknowledgement that is beyond the ordinary human sense. We're talking about acknowledging the kingdom, acknowledging God's plan, acknowledging his power and glory in your life, and more importantly, about acknowledging it in everyone, so that we're not making this a self-centered acknowledgement, but we acknowledge that all beings are created for this purpose. And when you do that, it has a transcendent attribute to it. Because our brothers are mirrors of ourselves, you then both see yourself in that light as well as them. And by your recognition, now here's the effects of acknowledging others and yourself. By your recognition of them, you awaken their recognition. And through their recognition, yours is extended. And so this is the growth process. This is how it operates. You extend it or offer it. Think of it like a blessing or a moment, a word of gratitude. You offer it to another, and in offering it to them, it becomes more real to you yourself. And that process has a ripple effect that cascades from higher planes on down so that it affects others. And this is part of the laws of the kingdom, that this awakening runs easily and gladly through the kingdom. It's the natural response. Again, this is your true spiritual nature, the natural response of every son of God. Heather?
I just experienced this just now in this meeting because when David just did that synthesis, it's by his recognition, my own was awakened even more. And I thought, oh my God, that's exactly what I was thinking and feeling. But when he put it that way, I was able to experience it at the same time he was sharing it. So it's just exactly what just happened.
Wow. All right. Well, David, if you wanted some feedback there you go. By the way, what David did a moment ago, this was by prearrangement. He volunteered to take that paragraph. And I'm going to be asking more and more of the participants in this meeting to volunteer to take a paragraph on their own and share with the rest of the group what you see in it. And so stay tuned, more to follow with that. David, thank you for being the first out of the gate there. I think you got us all started, and as Heather just acknowledged, it really comes through. That's as far as the reading goes. I have some summaries of what we talked about today. And so not to read every word, but the true will, which is one with all the universe, has certain properties or attributes. They are in alignment with God's will. Your free will is guided by the Holy Spirit. You could say from an emotion, what's it feel like? It's a source of joy. Its nature is inherent in your spiritual, in your divine being. It's natural to your divine nature. It is consistent with the path of God and advances you on in the one direction towards God. And it's transformative, it's empowering to your choosing. And as we just read, it has the recognition of this empowered choice has an impact on others in that it results in them seeing it for themselves. I want to acknowledge that this was generated by AI. I spent the morning experimenting with what AI could do with this, and there are different versions of what AI can do. And not to go into AI, but I didn't have any edits or changes to it. because I thought it was good out the gate. And I expect to use this more often because it collapses time. You can guess that were I to start from a blank sheet of paper and attempt to do something along this line, 45 minutes or an hour would probably be, and because I want it to be perfect, maybe longer, would take, whereas I can do this in minutes with AI. And so it's not here for the purposes of demonstrating AI. It's here for the purposes of being helpful in learning this course. And so there are many possibilities, and and so here's the simple version that I think is probably more better used as a summary rather than dragging one into a more verbose explanation of those terms. And so I'm thankful that we're in an era where both Zoom and these video conferences are available for free, as well as AI summaries. David, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Jonica. I've just been really, I think, wrestling for a long time with my will and God's will and trying to reconcile the confusion between the two. And only recently have I become really aware and feeling it that God's will is for me to be happy and joyous and peaceful and free to truly create everything my heart desires. And by giving me the free will to do that, the true free will. That's all I know. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, David. Yes, it does have a different emotional impact on us and a motivating impact because, like anything, it feels good and you'll want to come back for more. So that's all that I have to share today. But this theme of free will be continued on. I think this was an excellent session for introducing it, but it becomes so central to our entire journey, all the way back to knowledge, that it has to be appreciated at more and more levels. And so stay tuned for more to come. Thank you all for your time and attention. David, thank you for your willingness to read and share today.
For point of reference, no AI was used in my work. We have to say that when you submit something to a journal these days. You have to make a declaration that no AI was used.
You do. And a lot of high school students are blurring the line there.
I'm sure.
With their
I would have in high school for sure.
College as well. Those term papers. It's it's a new era up front here, and we'll see where it goes. So thank you all. God bless you. May you know that you are free and that life was created for us to be joyous and happy. Namaste.
Thank you, David.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Welcome.
David,
Thank you,
thanks,
David, for your
everybody.
wonderful elucidation also.
Thank you.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Okay, peace and love.
Hey, Jonica, you want to hang on for a second?